Thank you very much to Maggie, Richard, and Mohammed. I feel so welcome to Leeds. Thank you so much to all of you for being here. So again, thank you so much, and especially Maggie and Yuna. Is Yuna also in the room now? No, she's probably outside. They've been working very hard for a long time to facilitate and organize my coming here. And also when I saw the program, I was amazed at the richness of the program, the huge participation of speakers, many of whom I know their work and I really admire, so that was amazing to me. The PowerPoint that I have prepared, if anyone wants it, I'm happy to share it, especially for the references, I suppose. And let me just delve into it. Teaching is complex, and teaching a language is particularly complex. And so Anton and Lung tell us, and we all know it if we're teachers, that there are no straightforward formulae or recipes that will be effective in every context. Misty Adoniu, who is in Australia, has a very lovely metaphor about teacher knowledge as a tapestry. She says teachers need to know the how of teaching, the what of teaching, and also the why of teaching. When it comes to language teachers then, we need to know the content, which will be English or whatever language we are teaching at a particular time. We need to know about teachers and students and their relationships and our particular students very, very well. We need to know the school context and the sociocultural politics of the wider society in which we teach. And also, we are told language teachers should know about research, for example, second language acquisition research. So all of this is a lot of knowledge to have, and she rightly says that teachers must learn to find themselves and not to get lost in the cross stitches of the tapestry. Rose Mitchell also has a nice explanation. This was in the context of error correction and why it seems to work and not to work at the same time. She says good teachers act guided by their knowledge of individual pupils, their moment-to-moment reading of pupils' developing understanding and knowledge and skill, as well as their current level of interest and task involvement. So lots of difficult in-the-moment decisions to make as we teach. For all its wisdom, these insights focus on micro-dimensions of teachers as individuals. Can we also bring macro perspectives on circulating collective knowledges and practices that affect teaching and teachers? In investigating and understanding good teachers and good teaching, I believe we cannot lose sight of today's material, ideological, and political inequities. The world is becoming more and more dangerous for multilinguals, so people who have non-normative language repertoires and practices. Think of where we are today: conflict and war, non-solidarity, anti-diversity, anti-immigration, anti-welfare state populism, widening poverty gaps, and intensification of racial and religious hatred. This is what we see daily in and out today. And we all know that there are complex, difficult relationships of language learning and globalization, immigration, conflict, poverty, harmonious versus conflictive bilingualism, privilege, and vulnerability. Clearly, all these forces are affecting the lives of language learners. But how do they affect the lives of language teachers? And how do teachers respond to these forces? What do they need from their professional education to feel that they are responding appropriately? So today I want to basically explore how language teacher cognition is a well-developed area of research, but can we find a place for social justice in it? And also to remind ourselves that we cannot afford forgetting context in language education, and no matter what context we look at, there's always inequitable multilingualism at play. So let me first do a little bit of language teacher cognition overview. It is the job of teachers to create meaningful learning environments for their students. And so the job of the teacher is at its best when they are able to inspire and secure students' long-term motivation to learn the new language. And this is an area that Martin Lam has worked on very, very much. I'm going to be waving people in the audience. Also, when teachers are empathic and reap moments of connectivity with their students on the fly, and they create a permeable pedagogy of listening. And also when they are able to engage in democratic, inclusive research, exploring classroom puzzles while supporting the quality of classroom life. Most teachers care for students very, very much, and they feel a deep moral commitment to positively influence the lives of their students. And so this moral dimension of teacher identity involves agency to act upon the moral responsibility that they feel, is deeply emotional, and we know that teachers engage in emotion labor because they have to decide how to negotiate their own feelings and whether to obey or defy feeling rules of their institutions. And good teaching under this moral commitment to positively influence the lives of our students also demands emerging acts of moral imagination as teachers figure out how the big picture unfolds in and makes demands on the present relationship with the other, and that's Maggie. In the age of ambiguity, teachers are particularly challenged to reorient their gaze, and we got a very good taste of that in Maggie's introduction today too. They need to educate for convivial and creative meaning making. They need to engage with pain, the pain of their students. And they need to recognize when and how their students' multilingualism might be seen as a stigma, a sign of privilege, or a genuine opportunity to enter into an open and creative relationship with the other. In other work, Maggie with Graham Crooks, who used to be my professor in Hawaii, and with Anne Ferriok, have highlighted that to understand teachers, we need at once to understand an outward orientation towards the macro dimensions of teaching, the political, the structural, the societal, and an inward orientation towards teachers' own emerging investment in the teacher-student encounter. But we also need an ethical orientation that scrutinizes not only what can be learned, but primarily whether what can be learned is worth knowing and for whose benefit. So in all of this, I want to push a little bit further and look at social justice. Can we find social justice at the interstices of all these pieces of knowledge that we have about teacher cognition? So let me move to talking about the importance of contexts. But let me ask first, who are your students? Those of you in the audience who are right now actively teaching, who are your students? Raise your hand if you teach international college-aged students. Okay. Students in primary or secondary school? Fewer people. Adult immigrant or refugee, asylum seekers, students, also fewer people. Other, not named. What are the others that you teach? Spanish students at university. So they are college-aged students. Turkish students learning German at university in Turkey and English. Saudi students in higher education. Okay. Any others? Not named. Ruth, who do you work with? Who teaches what?
Well, some deaf and hearing training teachers, but
deaf and hearing training teachers. Teachers in training. Anyone else? Anything? Any other student not mentioned? Adults that want to learn the language. Which language? Italian. Italian. So a fundamental question of context that we can ask ourselves, regardless of who we teach, is what language do I teach or do my students learn, and why? Why do they even study a language? Yeah. Why learn languages today? This is a big question, and it summons different socioeconomic and political meanings in different parts of the world. Clearly, the intention of even asking this question, the meanings behind it, and the possible answers are going to be very different in different geographies. And I'm kind of thinking of the global north as the context that I will be touching upon. In global north context, we are constantly searching for persuasive reasons, especially if we're not teaching English. English seems to take care of itself, right? So I will look at 3 types of rationalizations for the study of language: humanistic social cohesion values, competitiveness in global markets, and integration inclusion.